Good afternoon, everybody. Can we put our hands together for Australia's favourite garden gnome and highly sought-after personality from Gardening Australia, Costa.
Well. Greetings, Woodfordians, and what a pleasure to be here for the planting 2026. Who got here on Friday? Oh, look at all of you. Makes me look like a hoax. Who rolled in on Saturday? Hey, see, man, I'm seeing familiar faces. And who came today? Every single bit of your contribution makes an incredible difference. And I was talking to Chris Shervey. I'm sure many of you have crossed Chris, not in anger, but crossed him around the site, managing what he explained to me are 14 different planting areas going on this year. Think about that. There's 14 spots that when we come back in December, they're not going to be the same. They've changed forever. And, you know, I've been on radio this week, and sometimes when I'm on the radio, like there's kind of a mid-management concept that, you've got to talk about local stuff. And I sometimes get frustrated about that because everything is local to our world. It just doesn't matter that I'm talking about Woodford and I'm on ABC Melbourne, or I'm on ABC Gold Coast, or I'm speaking to Perth or whatever, because what I'm talking about is local to everywhere and what the planting represents. And when you think, and Amanda was saying, this started in 96, 06, 16, 26, 3 decades. So when we look around here, the majority of the trees that we see are that age or less. We wouldn't have these microclimates. We would not be looking out onto this. We'd be looking out onto a weed-infested cesspool. Yet, 30 years has changed that. People now camp under trees, and those trees will provide more shade in years to come. But it doesn't mean that what happens here is happening everywhere else. I've just been in Cairns, and there is a constant urgency for crises. And when there's a crisis, what always pays the price? It always defaults to the space and the environment, and we need a car park, so we'll just indulge in that piece of protected bushland. We're turning it into a dual occupancy because a dual occupancy is going to help the crisis. It's not helping the crisis in the slightest when you're chopping down trees that are 80 years old. Don't know if any of you have heard about the rain tree that's earmarked for cutting down in front of a school on a corner block where 50.6% of the tree is on the council space, but the site was signed off without it being looked at, and now there's legal precedent. And the difference between law and truth is why I value what you all do by coming here each year. Because you refuel that inner understanding and knowledge that truth can prevail, particularly when we strategize and we play the same tactics that are played on the environment on a daily, weekly, and annual basis. It's constantly that fallback position that who pays, who collects the tab. It's generally the environment. So as we stand here and we move around, and has anyone planted a tree or a plant in the last 24 hours or 48 hours? I want you to genuinely connect with that and become its friend. And when you come back in December and when you return next year, take a photo, but most importantly, share that photo and say, this weekend I planted something for the next generation. And it reminded me of a thought I had. I have some funny thoughts in hotel rooms, particularly in the shower, because the majority of the places that I go to, the work is so dodgy, and I look at these incorrect seals and the leaking out onto the carpet and the tile work that is just, and I struggle. But anyway, I was in Adelaide yesterday, and I went to the toilet, and the toilet roll expired. So we have a choice, and my question to you is this. This is an interesting one. I should have titled it Toilet Dilemmas. But my question to you is this. What do you do in that situation? Do you take out the recharge, the cartridge, open the paper, use what you need, and leave it on the cistern? Or do you take the time to reload the roll, the cartridge? And you go, well, what's that mean, Costa? Like, seriously, there's trees to be planted. Stop wasting my time. But it ties in perfectly to what I'm talking about. Because we can take the approach, oh, there's a cleaner. And you see that happen when you go to stadiums. People go, oh, I'll just leave all the rubbish on there on the ground because, oh, that's what the person next to me did. And that's what the other 50 people in my row did. I leave the toilet roll. I paid for the room. It's $200, man. 200. Let the cleaner do it. I paid part of the fee, probably $1.98, was, oh, hello.
How's it going?
Yeah, good. Grab a seat. I paid $1.98, let the cleaner do it. But I want you to see through that cardboard toilet roll and see the connection between that toilet roll in Canberra, Adelaide, and yeah. I know where I am sometimes. In Adelaide, and the planting here in Woodford. Because what we're actually doing by replacing that toilet roll is creating a behaviour and a habit that says, I leave, in some senses, no footprint, or if I do leave a footprint, it is a footprint that the next generation can follow with confidence, in the knowledge that I'm not leaving work for them. It's the same if you have to strip a bed or not, right? You don't necessarily have to strip the bed. But I can go into more of these analogies. It's the same if you wanted to flip it the other way and say, do you make your bed in the morning? And what's that mean? What's the difference? Well, what's the difference? It means that regardless of what happens in that day, you've done something. And you've done something so when you come home, it's order. And that's a feeling. You cannot underestimate what that feeling means. So the people that planted these trees are creating a feeling for us to be here because there's a cooler breeze. There's shade. When you're here on those belting hot, humid Woodford days, where do you find people under trees created by the feelings of other people that set that up and did it? And this is why I can't help but get into this world of how important this is. Because we're actually, so with a toilet roll, I'm doing something for the next person that comes into the room. With a tree, I just went and planted, can everyone go, booyah? Booyah. Okay, that sounded like about 3 people. Right, this time I want you to go really loud on the count, my count of 3, 1, 2, 3, that's what no, not yet. So I'm going to go like that, and I want you to really give it to me. 1, 2, 3. Booyah! Right, thank you. I planted a booyah with Violet. Violet, are you here? No, she's not. Anyway, Violet is, Chris, 6? Well, she's 6 now. Violet is 6, maybe a bit more, she's 8. she was out planting some native violet. Like, there's a connection to that plant that she's going to watch spread as a ground cover and smother the opportunity for any other seed bank to pop up. Like, this is that connection to what this weekend is about, because this weekend isn't just about this weekend. This weekend is about the fact that Booyah was planted, but Violet and I stood there, got a photo and said, right, at Christmas, we're going to get another photo. So this Booyah is about mid-shin. I realise I am standing up for those of you at the back, but it's only mid-shin. By Christmas, it'll be hip, if not more, going off how things grow up here. And then next year and the year after, that tree is going to grow 50 metres, right? Just think about that. 50 metres, and it's going to have big buttress roots. Those big, where the big folds come and it spreads out. And it's on the corner here in the Sleepy Hollow. Can you imagine what that's going to be like for the people that are here in 50 years or 100 years? And the microclimate that that's going to create. And that's about habitat forever. So every action that you've taken, can I say, just by virtue of you coming here to the planting, you build a momentum that is a statement of who we are as Woodford, but as someone who identifies, and you know, identification is a topic of repute at the moment, but someone who identifies as a planter. But as a planter, someone who leaves the world not just better, but leaves it in an order and with a level of familiarity and storytelling that can be taken up by the next generation. They're not going to have to worry about that corner of Sleepy Hollow, because it, within 3 to 4 years, or say 5, it's going to just recreate its ecosystem. That's what true regeneration is about. And the monthly conservatory volunteers, and that's something, if some of you haven't done it, you know that you can have a planting festival every month with crazy happy people that turn up and put in, and the tree huggers. Like, when you can tell someone in the middle of perhaps a work meeting, perhaps a school P&C meeting or something, that I'm a tree hugger. When you can say that with confidence, but also with the knowledge that there is all of this information. There's an incredible well and a wave, and it's a tide. And to do something like this at this 6-month mark and then come back and say, right, I'm going to visit you, I'm going to watch you. I planted a Iliocarpus humundii out the front of the Children's Festival, which I haven't visited yet. I'm a bit bummed. I will get to it. But I also haven't been up to the top of the hill this visit to visit Bill's bunya. Put that on your bucket list, to go up and visit Bill's bunya. And that's Bill's bunya forever. You know, this is the amazing thing. And I mentioned to you about this tree in Cairns because there's another tree that was also earmarked for removal in Cairns some time ago. It had been hit by lightning. It had a lot of bat activity in there, and it's easy to find a reason to pull something down. The adventitious roots weren't being allowed to strengthen and turn into that buttress to hold the branch. So any specialist could come along and say, "Oh, mate, that's a bit unstable. Better take it out." When this whole library has a window, a public window, looking out onto this incredible courtyard. It was basically earmarked for removal. And I was like, I went along there, I said, well, just stop removing the adventitious roots. put a fence around it, tell the story of this tree, that it survived a cyclone, it survived all these things, and then leave it locked up for 10 years. And then when the buttress roots have strengthened and it's going well, open it up again and let people walk and sit under it. And it's about the timing. And it just so happened that that chat that I had with a counsellor that went in the paper the day before a meeting, every little bit matters. All the people that did that work up till that point, and I just happened to come along and just do my little bit, and together it made a difference. And the same thing's happening up there at the moment, but there's a legal challenge that makes it difficult. And I think what the planting represents is a prioritisation of nature. And it's really what Woodford, the core, the central basis of Woodford is that it is a festival about nature and about community and about culture. Culture. What are we? What are we doing? You know, I was thinking yesterday when I was having a yarn down in Adelaide, when we think about what we're doing with nature, when we think about who we are and how we are and what we are, and as Charlie and Formidable Veg have sung on this very land, you are what you eat. Well, what we eat is what we take in around us. Look at the speed with which that sand is being delivered. Thank you. Well, a round of applause. There's some work going on there. Who are you? What's your name? Gregor. Thank you, Gregor. When we think about what we eat, I'm not talking now about just the food. I'm talking about the story around what we digest. Who does not feel nature when they're here? Big call to put your hand up. But it's true, right? You feel differently when you're surrounded by nature because you're dining on nature. And I had this thought when it came to dining, and I thought about culture and I thought about what's been going on. I mean, think about the world that we were in from the 26th of December till the 2nd or 3rd of January this year, and what has happened since. Like, we're living in a very different place that has gone down some very challenging paths, right? But everything that we do at this festival, every talk, every workshop, the music, the creativity, the culture that we espouse has only been strengthened in the last 4.5 months. And when we come across the challenges, the limitations on supply systems, this is not news to anyone that's listened to talks here before. You know, it's International Permaculture Day today. Earth care, people care, fair share. This message runs through the creeks and the waterways of this site. And you've all picked up on these messages over the years. So it made me think about, well, what are we dining on? And how are we dining on that? And that dining is our calm and our inner self by being surrounded by nature. And then, of course, it's our food. And it made me think, and this was where this thought came to me. Again, funnily enough, it was in the shower. Have you all seen that Indian system of food delivery in containers that gets taken from the person's home to their place of work or employment? Now, can we just unpack this for a minute? in terms of what that truly represents. It's a statement. I'm not eating takeaway food. I'm not treating my food as a convenient thing. I'm actually saying, I make my food, I know my food, I am my food, and my food follows me. And that's a system of low energy. Like absolutely minimum energy. You put it outside your door, someone picks it up on a bicycle, rides it to the train station, goes onto a train, crosses train networks, does all this. It's like when you look at the Woodford work model. Has anyone seen that plan at the Kremlin? Like all the volunteer groups. And that food then goes on one train and it goes east to here, and then it goes to this point, and I don't know how, but then it gets on a train and it goes here, and then this person here picks it up and they take it, and then it goes back east and then west, and it arrives at, what's your name? Les. It arrives at Les's desk for lunch. That is absurdly incredible that can happen. But what's my point? My point is, it's about the essence of the food. It's saying, I'm going to eat food that's been created with love, that I know where it's from. The more we go into it, I knew who grew it, I knew how they grew it, I knew how they left the environment, I knew what they gave back, and then I know what it gives me. And so I just wanted to tie those few things together and say, you know, what you've been doing is part of this bigger system on this site. So in the 3 decades, over 155,000 trees have been planted. Sure, some have been lost. Not through bad planting, they've actually just been taken up because they've been outshaded, they've done their initial job, and now the bigger canopy's happening. And there will come a time in 20 years where there can be potentially understory planting or a whole new layer of stories implemented. This weekend, you've been part of 164 species of trees, plants, ferns, and orchids, some 46 or so unique to this site and this area. They're some pretty amazing stats, right? And I want to tell you that. I just want to make... Did you hear me up the back? Yeah, thank you. I want to make sure you hear this. Not because I'm here to pump up your tyres. Well, yes, I am. I am here to pump up your tyres, but not in some faux attempt to make you feel good, because you're here because you believe in it, but sometimes we don't fully... It's important to fully understand the broader picture, that 6 of those species are rare and endangered. Like that's this stuff right there. That's citizen science. Thank you. If you can't read it because of the ripples, I'll just say that Citizen Science Australia, right? Like you are all part of it. And I really love the fact, I met someone yesterday who was the head of Citizen Science Australia like 20 odd years ago, when they were battling for people to even know what that means. And now, people are conscious of that. They're partnering with so many different groups. Like I was up there earlier near a tree, and have you seen the shapes, those circular shapes when leaves get eaten almost in a perfect circle? That's called the leafcutter bee. That's a native bee. Now, if you look up Dr. Kit Prendergast, the bee Babette, she's doing amazing work on our Australian native bees. And she said, I'm looking for locations of where these bees are. And so for me to be that citizen scientist, you want to know what I did? I took a photo. And then I can pin that photo and say, boom. And that goes to her as a proper. I love it when I'm in Alice, because often my mob buddies there, if something's really good, they go, oh, it's proper. Like if something's proper. So that becomes a proper piece of science. Like, that then gets used by a scientist to go, whoop, here we go. This is information that we're participating in. But it goes back to that step this morning where I was out with Dirt Girl and Scrap Boy, and we were doing a nature council where we asked the children to be some part of nature, and they had to connect and become an insect, become a bird, whatever they suggest, whatever they wanted to. And when we think like that and we become that, then we start to see the world that's actually going on around us, not sort of just wandering with one thing on our mind. Once you start to become a citizen scientist, you're going to see different things. You're going to turn the lights off at your house to stop the moths banging on the glass. You're not going to landscape your garden with lights that stay on all night and bother the migration of things like the bogong moth. And you're going to keep an eye out to see whether you see a bogong moth that's got a little white dot on it that was put there by a whole lot of citizen scientists about a month ago because they want to see just how far these moths go. And they go from the mountains, the caves in the mountains in southern New South Wales and Victoria, they come all the way up here. Like, you know, these are moths like this. Like, nature is incredible. And the planting and your presence here is about putting those nature goggles on. I talk about it with the children, but believe it or not, you being here, you're putting nature goggles on. And when you share these stories, when you tell people, around 2,700 plants got installed to this point in time since Friday. 2,700. Can I have a bit of a woo? Which is adding to the 155,000 that have been planted here already. But what's exciting about it, you look at the butterfly walk now. The butterfly walk, guess what comes to the butterfly walk? Shock horror. Like, we built it and they came. Like, this is not happy clappy, just jam them in. You got the tree huggers and everyone coming back each month so that when an area has been cleared and planted, they do that spot work, that critical ongoing maintenance that will give those trees and those shrubs and those ground covers the chance to be their best early on and not have to compete, not have to be there and sort of try and nudge in against all the grass and the weed and go, yeah, look, I'm trying to, you know, that's not the case. And when that gets done, they rock it. And then all of a sudden, they're creating canopy, they're reducing light, they're holding moisture, the mulch is working, a little bit of top up here and there, and that whole area that got planted down at Sleepy Hollow, it will be popping within 6 to 12 months. And then they move to the next area. And this is one of the things, and I want to give credit to Chris and the team, because 30 years is proper thinking. Like, it's not about let's just clear everywhere and plant some stuff there and walk away. Like, it doesn't work that way. Sure, it works for the photos. Hold the children's and take a photo. That's not what the planting's about. It's about consolidating and working onward from the work that so many people have done before this. And Chris mentioned to me that 234 cubic metres of mulch were ordered, and a large part, not all of that has gone out, but it will be completed by the trainees from Challenge Employment. So it's beautiful that Woodford is bringing in these other groups to provide not only employment but opportunity to connect with the festival, to connect with culture, to connect with what this represents, particularly at a time when music and festivals are being dominated and rolling over. Like, the importance of Woodford at the moment, and I'm not talking out of any vested interest other than that I want those children that were over at the Mud Pie Kitchen and at our Grubby Bucket show to have access to Australian talent, to be able to come and perform and build careers and be creative and turn their inquiry and their curiosity into a place where they're safe, into a place where they can launch and really feel like they're supported. And that support has to come from a healthy ecosystem, environmentally, but also culturally. So, to me, the fact that you're here, it's amplifying to the broader audience that this matters. And at a time when the urgency around so many things pushes things like this to sticking a few plants in the ground, it's got nothing to do with that. This has actually got to do with the fact that we're not just pushing back. We don't need to push back against that current because that's tiring, right? It's really tiring to stand there and say stop. It's a lot easier to go, whatever, we're doing this. We are extracting from your narrative, and that's what Woodford's been all along. It's an extraction from a particular narrative and says, we can do things a bit differently. We can visualise a world where there isn't all this conflict because we actually communicate, we actually collaborate rather than compete. You know, this idea that competition is always going to solve everything, no, it's not. You know, because there's some things that just need to be done with goodwill, speaking of. The forest of goodwill. Oh, tell you what. I'll have to jump in the next barrow and slow him down. He's actually getting faster. I don't know how that works. So I just wanted to share a couple of things that I came across in my recent travels, because one of the most powerful parts about bringing a group of people like all of you together is that capacity to have conversations and share what you're seeing, share what you're doing, give people tasters of what's going on. I saw a fantastic project. There's one in Melbourne, there's another one in Adelaide where I met some people yesterday, and it's called Fruit Near Me. And they go around and harvest fruit off fruit trees that otherwise would go to waste because the people have aged and they don't have the capacity to do that anymore. Like, this ties in to everything that we can do when it comes to sharing this story about food and culture and the environment, so that we're not removing those trees. Oh, just remove them because they're creating a fruit fly hazard. Like, a fruit tree takes 10 to 15 years to reach that beautiful production level, and then it can senesce a bit if it doesn't get love, but then you cut it back and it comes back again. And you look at the simplicity of a project like that then captures that food, gives it to organisations that are dealing with food shortages and, you know, food inequality. Like, the sharing economy has never been more spotlit than it is at the moment, because we suddenly have to think twice about whether I'm just going to drive around when the main form of transport has just doubled or tripled in price. And then you think, we are so resourceful and resilient. We can change. We can change our day-to-day. We can reduce our need in this area and come up with new solutions to that challenge. Another one that I saw was, and I'll tie this in a little later, there's a solar energy manufacturer in Adelaide. Adelaide manufacture? What? We don't manufacture in Australia. That's what we've been told to believe. That's been the narrative for too long. And we've sold so much out to this narrative of, no, well, we can't do it here. Well, this company over there is doing it. And when you look at Adelaide, they went, in the last 18 years, they've gone from literally 0% renewables to 73%. 73% of their energy is, you know what I mean? Like, in 18 years. That's not very long. And, you know, our capacity to push back on these narratives that just keep turning it into the same spiral that, no, we can't, no, we're not part of this change, it has to be this, it has to be this way, when we know that it's not the truth, and we know that it's actually just delaying and thwarting changeovers. So, you know, these are some of the stats that are going on. And, you know, this event that I was at yesterday, what I really love about it, and I've been to a few of them in the last month or so, one's called Get Your Garden On, the other one was called Enviro Expo, the other one was called the South Australian Autumn Garden Festival. But what are they? In many ways, they are a simple, hyper-local event that bring those people doing what they're doing to the spotlight in front of the local people and say, look at what's going on here. And where are they generally held? They're generally held at libraries. Now, since we were together in January, the capacity to read truth in our information sources has dropped even sharper because the quality of false information and the role that all of that plays just gets bigger and bigger. So where do we get our truth? That to me is a really valuable and important question to ask, because you can't be sure of anything that's online unless you really know the source. Whereas places such as public libraries, they have a physical representative there that you can interact with. And those public libraries, backed by the local councils who are creating these events, are creating events of exchange. They are events where you can go and meet the local people who have skin in the game, they're vested interests, and they can't screw you because you live down the street. And you can go back to the library. And it seems funny, doesn't it, that the library, which for me as a child, that was like utopia. Who remembers their library bag? Like to go to the library and fill my library bag, that was like Christmas every week. But nothing's changed in terms of that truth, because you actually have people. It's like this constant desire to buy everything online. And then the disappointment when you look at it and you go, that's rubbish. The photo, like, we need, and this is why everything about Woodford and turning up here and seeing the people and going to the talks and seeing all the local people doing what they do. And when I say local, I'm not just talking local to Woodford, I'm talking local to our community. Because once we find someone that does something that we need regularly, then that's it, you've got it. Share it, put that message out there, let people know that you've resolved your toilet paper supply. Because you get it from this mob, they use recycled content, they're Australian made, and I'm done. That's what I use. And do that with everything. And when we start to do that, then the messages we can take out of here and start to reflect that to those people in our lives is really what the Woodford message is about. And this mid-year event gives us that chance to turn around and say, oh, well, maybe rather than this kind of fuel up, that kind of fuel up. We can fuel up and see that we're not alone, build these relationships, nurture these relationships, take them away and actually really promote and drive these organisations so they can be the leaders. And it happens through us. But it'll only happen through word of mouth and action, sharing images, letting people know. Because when you let people know, then the overarching narrative can't spiral it. We can actually spiral things the other way. And that's what enthuses me so much about being able to come here. And, you know, okay, this year I could only come for today. And it doesn't matter because I carry this with me every day. And every day someone asks me about these, and you've heard me bang on about this. But every time, you know, at the airport yesterday I was standing there and someone said, what are they? What are they for? I said, oh, since you asked, this is the Forest of Goodwill. And Woodford are working on buying back the site to hold this cultural entity, sound, for generations to come. And you can contribute and so on and so forth. They go, oh, Woodford, you know, and I say, well, you know, I'm going to the planting today, but why don't you mark it down for Christmas and come along? Oh, actually, yeah. And they get on their phone, they have a look, they mark it, and away they go. Like, that wasn't me marching with my megaphone garden gnome loudhailer. That was someone actually coming to me and getting a little bit of a story about this Forest of Goodwill. But the Forest of Goodwill, you're actually planting it. You're planting it every time you come to this festival. Every time you go back to those trees and look at where they've grown to and share those stories and take someone else there. So I'll finish off by saying a really big thanks for coming and for putting your energy in to this festival. Time is irreplaceable. Like, you can't say, oh, I wish that tree was bigger, because the time is now to plant. And that's what we've all done. We've all planted something that's not going to be the same in 6 months. And I look forward to walking around and looking at those trees and those plants, but particularly observing nature's capacity to regenerate when we give it a hand. So can you give yourselves a hand for giving nature a hand? Now, coming up, I'm going to be followed. I've just been warming the stage for Paul Bentham because Paul is right into hemp. Now, I don't know what you know about hemp and what you don't know about hemp, but probably what a lot of what you know about hemp is that it's caught up in all this legal malarkey, but there's so many different varieties of hemp that do so much and have done so much for years and years until there was certain industry decisions and blocking and so on that, you know, prevented hemp becoming what it should be as far as an incredibly powerful and strong and multi-growing species in most microclimates and most climates around the world. There's a species of hemp that is out there and can grow. And one of the stalls down in Adelaide yesterday, they actually had recycled clothes hangers that had a whole lot of hemp fibre in there. So there's ways that we can take these ideas, share them, and get this material not only recognised but supported nationally, and get away from the fear and the anxiety and just the sheer conservatism which has held it